Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Groo the Game. This was sent to me by Steve Jackson Games and is designed by Ken Whitman. Groo the Barbarian is the classic fantasy hero, brave, daring, and completely brainless. When Groo comes to town, armies melt away and buildings fall. He doesn't mean it, it just happens. You'll roll dice for resources and use them for buildings, and armies. Groo moves randomly, always with the best of intentions, destroying all that he encounters. Up to 6 can play, and the more the merrier. Let me show you how to play. So the objective of the game is you want 7 or more victory points worth of buildings at the end of any turn. So let's kind of go through the game flow. At the beginning of your turn, you may discard any of the cards in your hand. You start with 5. So there are different cards, we'll get into these later, but you can discard, and then you can draw your hand up to 5. If you ever draw an event card, like this, something happens. Like this one says Groo's Rampage. Until the beginning of your next turn, all Groo heads rolled are doubled. We'll get into what Groo heads are in a second. Then, if you have an army, you can attack. We don't have one of those yet. Well, let's go into the construction phase, which is sort of like the meat of this game. So, you have these 7 dice here. You're gonna give them a roll. These are big chunky dice. This die is the Groo movement die. This determines where Groo goes. If it's this, he stays where he is. Otherwise, he might move 2 spots left, or 2 spots right. And he's gonna move around in front of people's towns. If you look at the die here, you've got copins, which are like the currency, you got supplies, you've got labor, and you've got Groo heads. Groo heads can be used to play cards like this, like Minor Problem. You spend 1 Groo head, Groo destroys 1 building at his current location. Or maybe something like this, Flee with your gold. Remove all troop cards requiring copins at Groo's current location. So that's what these can be spent for. The other faces can be used to play cards. So you have buildings like the School of Arms. This cost 2 of these. So you would spend them and you would play it in front of you. This right here is how many victory points it's worth. There's also an effect, in this case, adds +1 defense to any 1 troop card in your town. So you play it, you put it into your town in front of you. There are also troops, like, for example, this bowman. In this case, if you spent one of these, he would be worth 2 attack, 0 defense. And you play those in front of you as well. So you spend these dice to play cards on your turn, and then anything you don't use, you pass to the player on your left. That player would then have the opportunity to use whatever dice are left to play some of their cards. You keep passing them around until everyone's had a chance, or if all the dice are used up. Once you've played your cards, you drop to 5, and then the next player goes. So it's interesting because these cards you can play on other people's turns as long as they give you the dice you need to spend them. Now let's go into how war works. So if you decide on your turn before constructing that you want to do your attack phase, then you're going to pick a town to try to attack. And then you would send your troops to fight. So let's say I sent a bowman to a neighbor's town. So in this case, he is worth 2 attack. The other player could then dedicate some of their troops to defend, like this dragon, for example. It's 3 defense. Now, let's pretend we switch that around, actually. Let's say the dragon is attacking, and the defender defends with, let's say, a pikeman and a footman, like that. You would then add up their defense. This would is 3. This attack is 5. Minus it, and that is 2 damage. So what happens is, in the other player's town, the defending player, they would take 2 damage worth of buildings, and they get to choose which buildings are lost. So you look at the victory points. This would be 1 damage. This could be gone. If you had like 2 of these, you would lose 2 of those in your town. However, if the defending strength is equal to the attack or greater, then they successfully defend and no buildings are destroyed. However, all the troops involved in the fight are discarded. So once you use a guy to attack, it's gone. And if you use guys to defend, they're gone. Otherwise, that's pretty much the game. I mean, you play cards, soldiers and buildings, try to get up to 7. They all have different effects. I'll just show you some random ones. Roferto, he's a wild card, which can be played at any time. You can move Groo to any town. Residence adds a victory point if another residence is in your town. And then some other examples of buildings, like Baker adds 1 point to the butcher and the candlestick maker in your town. Blacksmith adds 1 victory point if there's an armory in your town. Captain Ajax adds 2 to both attack and defense if your town is a shipyard. Minstrel, as long as you speak in rhyme, may double the attack or defense of any one troop card in your army. If you speak without rhyming, discard this card. Otherwise, that's it. Build up your troops, try to destroy each other, build up to 7, and try not to get destroyed by Groo with Groo cards. And that's the game. So this is a very silly game, and I don't begrudge it for that. In fact, I think it's alright. The Groo movement die, though, does add just a little too much randomness for my taste. I get that it's thematic. I don't know the original source material. I believe it's like a comic, but I know he's supposed to run around just, clumsily destroy things. But I think what I prefer... In fact, I don't even mind the die. I just wish there were ways to move him around. Like, maybe you could, I don't know, discard a card to move Groo away from you. Maybe you could even do it between turns, or almost maybe like, Groo comes to you, you spend a card to send it to somebody else, and then they spend a card to move him again. Something like that, so there's just a little bit of control. I don't mind having it random where he goes each turn, but if you can move him, that would help. And then you have to decide, oh, should I keep cards in my hand? Is it worth it to move Groo away? Because if Groo constantly lands on you, it is a huge disadvantage in this game. And if he chooses to stay, which is one of the die rolls, also it's just like, well, there's not a whole lot you can do. Because the thing is, I actually do like in this game the mechanic of that you can play cards on other players' turns with the resources that they don't use. It's honestly the best part of the game, and I think it's actually... I'm kind of surprised I don't see that concept in other games very often. I like that. It gives everyone, you all pay attention to everyone's turns and get to spend cards. It's pretty fun. The combat is obviously whatever. It's just send guys, compare numbers, that's it. Nothing really special or unique there. So again, overall, it's fine. At the end of the day, it's just another one of those very silly games where you mess with each other. I think if you just removed or gave a little more agency with being able to move Groo, at a cost, I think that'd be good. It would balance it out more. I also wouldn't mind sillier cards. It's a silly game, right? I feel like a lot of these silly games, they're almost like a little too, not bland, but a little too just straightforward, like, oh, these two cards together gives you a +1 victory point. It's like, I'm not playing this to play a strategy game. I'm playing this because it's funny to watch people get destroyed. So put some more chaotic cards in there, I guess. I don't know, I guess that goes against what I just said about making Groo move. But the Groo movement thing is, I think, just a little too random, whereas silly cards is still part of like a gameplay chaotic fun. Anyway, it's alright. It's totally whatever.